The Plague Tale series has come a long way since Innocence released back in 2019. What started as a relatively small project from Asobo Studio quickly grew into something much more ambitious with Requiem, which pushed the visuals, environmental detail, and overall scale significantly further. Now, Asobo is back with Resonance, a Plague Tale legacy, and this entry marks a significant shift as it moves away from the stealth-focused structure of the previous two games in favor of a much more action-oriented experience. But what hasn't changed is the technical foundation, as this game is built on the same in-house technology that powered Innocence and Requiem. And despite relying purely on traditional rasterization with no ray tracing effects, most of the time the game looks really beautiful, thanks to its strong art direction and its finely tuned high-quality baked lighting, which does a good job approximating some of the visual characteristics of RTGI without the temporal noise and boiling we often see in real-time ray-traced lighting. Of course, this approach also has its drawbacks, as sometimes the game can exhibit that glowy look around objects and surfaces in addition to the usual screen space artifacts from SSAO and SSR. But overall, I really like the visual presentation of this game, and it reminded me of a time when developers could achieve a convincing and cohesive look through clever use of traditional rendering techniques and strong art direction. When it comes to performance, the game is generally decent in this regard, but there are few issues worth pointing out. For the most part, the game delivers stable performance with a flat frame time graph and no noticeable shader compilation stars. However, there are moments when that stability is disrupted by traversal hitches, which occur when crossing certain streaming thresholds as the game loads the next area. These hitches aren't frequent enough to have a major impact, but they can still be quite noticeable and distraction when they do occur. Additionally, there are some particularly dense and demanding areas like this one that are filled with NPCs and can push the game into a fully CPU-limited stage. Now, Asobo has included some CPU-related settings that should help mitigate the performance hit in these scenarios, so let's not waste any more time and jump into the settings starting with these options. First, we have NPC Refresh Rate. When set to low, this setting enables decimated animation for NPCs, which reduces the refresh rate of their animations to help lower the CPU load. Here in this area, while the game is CPU limited, dropping this setting to low improves performance by around 7 to 9%. So I recommend using low if your CPU is struggling in these particularly demanding areas. Next, we have Enemies Refresh Rate, which is pretty similar to the previous setting but applies to enemies instead. And at least in this area, lowering this setting did not result in any significant CPU performance gains. Still, even with that, I recommend using low if you are CPU limited, as this might have a bigger impact in other areas. Lastly, for this section, we have Physics Amount. Now, I've tested this setting across multiple scenes with cloth physics like here, as well as vegetation elements, and I couldn't see any noticeable visual or performance impact. So either this setting isn't working as intended or I am looking in the wrong places. Either way, I recommend dropping it to low if you have a weaker CPU just to stay on the safe side. Let's move on to upscaling because there are some points worth mentioning here. In addition to its TAA, the game supports DLSS and FSR. And while there is an ultra quality option for DLSS, it doesn't work as intended and renders the game at native resolution similar to DLAA. Also, the upscaling options for TAA don't use the same internal resolutions as FSR and DLSS. The closest mode to DLSS quality and FSR quality for TAA is balanced. And if we take that mode and compare it against DLSS and FSR quality, we can see that TAA delivers a more stable image than FSR 2 and 3. So for those who can't use DLSS or FSR 4, I'd recommend using TAA instead. Moving on to draw distance. This one controls the draw distance and level of detail of the game's objects and geometry. And it also has an impact on characters' LOD, as you can see in this scene. When it comes to pop in, using Ultra makes it almost unnoticeable. At medium and particularly low, the distance at which objects switch their LOD is closer to the camera, while with high, that transition occurs further away. Performance-wise, this setting can be quite demanding. In this scene, there is around a 2% cost from low to medium, 12% to high, and 19% to ultra. So for this one, I recommend high, and if you want to save more performance and you don't mind more noticeable pop in and open areas, use medium. Next, we have shadow maps. Shadows are one of the weakest visual aspects of this game. In some areas like here during sunset or here with these local shadows from the fire effects, the shadows have a low quality look and the setting doesn't affect them at all. Additionally, the shadow distance even at ultra isn't particularly impressive and can be quite distracting, especially in open areas. As for performance in this scene, going from low to medium costs around 2%, to high around 8%, and to ultra around 12%. So for this one, I recommend medium, and if you have enough performance to spare, use high. Let's move on to contact shadows. This one controls the screen space shadows used for small objects and details that regular shadow maps can't accurately capture, and they add a lot of depth to the scene as you can see here. Performance-wise, there is a meaningful impact only when using Ultra with around a 5% cost. So for this one, I recommend high. Moving on to volumetric lights. This one adjusts the quality of volumetric effects, particularly light shafts, which exhibit more noise and breakup, especially at low and medium, as you can see here. And the visual impact isn't always as noticeable though. In some areas, it's really difficult to tell the difference between the options. Performance-wise, this setting has a small impact of around 2 to 3% when using Ultra. So for this one, you can use high to stay on the safe side and save some performance, or you can simply use Ultra if you don't mind the small performance cost. Next, we have light shafts. This one doesn't seem to be working as intended. I have tested it across multiple scenes and areas, but I couldn't notice any meaningful visual or performance impact. So either this setting isn't working as intended or I am testing it in the wrong areas. Either way, you can leave it at whatever option you prefer. Let's move on to Ambient Occlusion. This one controls the quality of the game's SSAO. Disabling it, as you can see here, significantly affects the visual presentation, while the higher options increase the occlusion radius and intensity of the ambient occlusion. Additionally, low and medium can exhibit more noise and breakup compared to high and ultra, as you can see here. On the performance side, enabling SSAO at any option comes with around a 4% cost. So for this one, I prefer high since ultra has slightly more intense SSAO, which can create a dark halo around most objects. But if you don't mind that, you can use ultra. Moving on to screen space reflections. This one controls the accuracy of SSR, and the higher options allow to extend further out, capturing more objects from the scene and the reflections. Also, high and ultra show less noise compared to low and medium. Performance-wise, there is around a 4 to 5% cost when enabling screen space reflections. So for this one, I recommend ultra. Lastly, we have texture quality. This one, as usual, adjusts the quality of the game's textures and assets. At first glance, it looks like 8GB of VRAM should be enough for Ultra textures, but that's actually not the case. Using Ultra on the 3060 Ti, as you can see here, pushes VRAM usage very high and close to the 8GB limit. So if you have an 8GB GPU, I recommend keeping texture quality at high.
Show me. Good, but it's not enough. Wait for the opening, then pour your strength into the blow.
So given everything we've discussed so far, these are my recommended settings for Resonance A Plague Tale Legacy. Now let's compare the performance of the optimized settings against the Ultra preset at 1440p using DLSS quality and high textures. Here in this area, which is one of the earliest GPU demanding scenes in the game, we can see on average around 29% performance improvement when going from the Ultra preset to the optimized settings. So on the technical side, Resonance A Plague Tale Legacy is in a good shape, and it's another showcase of Asobo Studios' in-house technology and talent. Despite not relying on any cutting-edge rendering techniques, the game looks absolutely stunning. Now there are still some rough edges, such as the occasional traversal hitches, but overall these issues are relatively minor and don't take much away from the experience. Before ending the video, I want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon. If you are able and would like to directly support my work, consider becoming a patron to get early access to my optimized settings, as well as downloads of the highest possible quality of my latest videos, including this one. And a big thank you to all my supporters, and thank you as well for watching until the end. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and if not, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one.